Okay, so in this video I'm going to be explaining how to work out Drilbur manipulation for White 2 speedruns. First thing you need to do is get RNG Reporter. I'll put all the links in the description for downloading stuff. So get RNG Reporter. And then first thing you need to do is find your seed encryption variables. So go to 5th Gen Tools, find DS parameters, and then gonna fill out this section on the right here. So we want White 2, language, English, and then select your DS type. This manipulation can be done on any DS, but it's much better on DS original, which I'll explain why later, but it can be done on like 3DS and stuff. And then MAC address. So to find your MAC address, you need to go into your game, then go down to Nintendo Wi-Fi settings, options, system information, and there's your MAC address. Okay, so the next thing you need to do is determine the vCount, timer 0, gxstat, and vframe. And the way to do this is pretty much just starting the game at random times and immediately receiving or catching a Pokemon, and then checking its IVs and putting them into this and seeing what you get. So one way of doing this is to go over to Driftvale City, and going in here and saving right in front of this guy who gives you a free dealing. But you can do this step in lots of different ways. You can do it for any gift Pokemon, any static Pokemon, or just anywhere in general with grass or in a cave, by using Sweet Scent as soon as you load the game, or just turning in place to get the encounter. The key is you can't take any steps before you get the encounter. So if you're not using Sweet Scent, then you have to just turn like this until you get an encounter, if you're doing that method. Just make sure you're not taking any steps. The only other thing is the Pokemon must be of a sufficiently high level to be able to determine its IVs. So you can't just do this with like the starter Pokemon or whatever. For example, the dealing I get here is level 30, which is good enough to determine the IVs. So if you're doing this with like a Sweet Scent encounter or whatever, you probably want to go to like Victory Road or something to get a high enough level Pokemon to determine the IVs accurately. So here's an example of how to do it. So I'll just pick a random date, so September 24th, 2014, hour, let's say 12:44, 10, and then up here you'll notice it will automatically put the minimum seconds as what you've put here and the max as 10 after. That's not really what you want. You want it, the min to be 1 before and then 1 after, and then once you understand the timing, you can just put the minimum as the actual seconds and the max as the actual seconds. But before you know the timing, you might accidentally hit 1 second before or after, which obviously doesn't matter because you're just picking a random time anyway. So put in your time here. Also choose 3 buttons to hold, or you can just pick 2 or 1 or whatever, just whatever you like. So I'll do right, A, and L. So now go here and put in whatever random date and time you selected. So I selected 24, 2014, and 12, 44, 10. Okay, so for the seconds, if you're on DS, you can just use the DS clock on the top screen to time your input. But if you're on 3DS, you'll need an external timer. I think the 3DS takes about 3 seconds to boot up, so you want to press A 3 seconds before the time on 3DS, but that I think can vary, and that's the issue with 3DS. For DS, it's always just 1 second before, so when you see the clock tick to 1 second before the time you want, then you start up the game. And so what button presses did I? So right A and L. So I'll set that time. Right A and L. And then, so because my time was 10, I started it up when it got to 9. But if you're off by a second, it doesn't matter, obviously, because as I said before, it's just a random time you've chosen. So then go into the game. Get your Pokemon. And then check its stats. Alright, so now click on Calculate IVs from Stats, and then go to your Pokemon, put in its nature and characteristic, level, and its stats. Then check IVs. There you go, and then OK. And then you want to click search. And as you can see, I've got 2 results here. Ideally, you'd only have 1. So just open a notepad file and write down what you've got. So 7D, 112A, 6C, 82, 10F, 6, 6, and 8. And you'll be able to determine which of these 2 is the actual one that you hit when you repeat this again, because the GX stat, V frame, and V count will always be the same. The timer 0 is the only thing that will vary. So repeat this process again, choose another random date and time and held buttons, and do this again. So now I've done it again, I can clearly see from this that my second one was right, because the V count this time was 82 and we got 6 and 8 for those, so I know which result for my previous one was the correct one. It was this one. So now I know my V count, GX stat, and V frame. The timer 0 is the thing that is going to vary every time, and you'll get about 5 or 6 different timer 0 values. And what you need to basically do is repeat this process about 50 times, and this will give you the distribution of your timer 0 values, because some are probably going to be more common than others. So what you want to do is you want to write down, so I got 10F3 once on this, and then 10F6 once, and then I'm going to keep repeating this process of starting at random times, random buttons, and finding out what timer zero I get, and then writing it down here. So yeah, you want to do this about 50 times, or 30 to 50 times to get a good distribution. Okay, so after you've done that like 50 times or whatever, you want to click send results to profile, and then give your profile a name. And then for the timer zero minimum and maximum, what you want is to use your distribution that you've got, and kind of make a judgment about which timer zero values you want to include. So as you can see here, 10F2 and 10F4 seem to be my most common values. So I would put in 10F2 to 10F4, which would mean I also search for 10F3, but that's fine. So you just got to make a judgment about that and decide which ones you want to include and put them in here. And then here you want to put, for key presses, you want to put none, 1, 2, and 3. And then everything else you just leave as it is, and you press OK. And then you've got your profile set up. Okay, so the next thing you need to do is click on Time Finder and then 5th generation Time Finder, and make sure your profile is selected up there. And then for the year, it doesn't matter what year you start on. You might have to search through multiple years, so just start on whatever year you like and select all the months. Because the season doesn't matter after Drilbur Manip. And then min-max frame should be 1. This should be IV standard seed. These don't matter. And then IVs, you want all 31s. Now special attack, you can just put it on, you can take any special attack. If you want to save 1 turn, you need 4 special attack IV in normal mode and 12 in challenge mode, and you also need the Sand Force ability, which doesn't matter at the moment, but you'd have to do that in a later step. So leave these as they are, and then click on generate. So once it's finished searching for seeds, you want to right click and then output results to text, and then save and open it up in a notepad file. And now you just want to look down the seeds and delete the ones which have very high seconds, because obviously you don't want to wait too long during your manip, especially since this manip is during the run, so the longer you have to wait, the more time it wastes in your run. So it's up to you how long you want to accept. The lowest you can get to on a DS is 7 seconds without waiting a full minute. And on 3DS, I don't know how fast you can get to, but you probably know from doing your parameter test how fast you can get into the game. So just go down the list and delete the ones which have very high seconds that you don't want to wait for. So once you've done that, go back to the main screen of RNG Reporter, and then change this to Gen 5 PID RNG. You want Nature Adamant, ability any, unless you want to save that turn that I mentioned before, then you want to select ability 1. Encounter slot, you want 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. And gender, so ideally you want female, you can take both if you want. Female only matters for Skylar, it's better, and Grimsley, it's better. But male is actually better for Rude, but it's not as important as the other fights. So female is better. I would actually recommend just taking female, but if you want, you can take both if you want to get more results to test. So now you want to copy and paste each seed into here from your list. So I'll take the first seed, copy it to here, and then generate. And you basically want to see, oh sorry, I need to put that on cave spot as well, and then generate. And you want to find a result that's about between 100 and 200 in the frames. It can be a bit lower than that and a bit higher. The issue with a bit lower is you might not be able to generate the dust cloud in time, and the issue with being too high is you might go over the 128 step count before you can advance the RNG to the correct frame. So 1104 is way too high, so that seed is definitely unusable. So delete that and then go on to the next seed. So let's try this one. Generate 181. So that is usable, I would say. So I'll keep that one. Let's try the next one. Generate 842. That's too high. So delete that and try the next one. And that's too high, so delete that one and just continue going down your list and test all of them and delete the ones where it's not possible, where there's no frame in between 100 and 200 roughly. So once you've done that, now you want to test how consistent these seeds are, and you can do this in the same way you did the parameter test, so with the gift Pokemon. So you just want to start the game at whatever time it says with the button press it says, and then get the Pokemon and then just check whether it has perfect IVs. Don't worry about what nature it has or whatever, just check if it has perfect IVs, and if it does, that means you've hit the right seed. So keep trying that about 10 times for each seed, and if you find one where you get it quite often, you can test it more and then decide which seed is the most consistent. And if you find none of them are very consistent, then just repeat this whole process with a new year and try and find a consistent one there. Okay, so here are my results from testing each seed. So the top line below each seed is how many times I got that timer 0, and below is how many times I didn't get it for each one. So as you can see, most of the time I'm not getting it very often for most of these seeds. But if I go down here, this one I've tested a bit more because it was good, and it looks like, at least from my test, I've got it more often than not. So I would choose to go with this seed. If you don't find any which are any good, then you might want to try again with the new year and see if you can find any. But yeah, as you can see, I've tested each one about like 10 to 20 times. You might argue that I should test them a bit more, but for a better sample size. But yeah, so once you find one that's like decently good, you want to download Lua scripts, and you need the Lua 5.1 DLL and the Lua 51.dll. you need to get those two, put them in the same folder as Desmume. You need 64-bit Desmume, and the Lua scripts that you want are the seed injection Lua script, this Lua script, Black and White 2 USA revised, and this one is also helpful, Gen 4 and 5 Pokemon. So download all of those. So now open up your emulator, load the ROM, and open up the Lua scripts, this one, the Black and White 2 revised, and also the seed injection Lua script. Open those both up, and then load. So load the level 18 Drilbur manip save state if you are running normal mode or normal mode and challenge mode, and open the level 19 if you just want to run challenge mode. So open the one that applies to you, and then first thing, save. And then record movie, replace that, and then put in your date. So mine's the 5th of December 2012. The time doesn't matter, I don't think, for any seed, so just do that. And then you want to repel 3 steps into this. Like, obviously in runs you repel on the first step, but because there's cutscenes in runs, you end up saving 3 steps. So repelling here has the same effect as repelling on the first step would in normal runs. So now go over to here, and this is the step that you normally end the fight on before you do Drilbur manip. So just make a save state here and then load it straight away again. That you need to do that in order to be able to save, otherwise it won't let you save. So you can try saving on this spot to begin with. And then what you need to do is edit your seed injection Lua script and put in your desired seed here. So mine's already there, but you'd copy and paste your seed into here. Make sure these settings are all like this, and then when you've done that, just press save, and it will inject your seed. Go in here, make a save state as you enter, and then you just want to try different movement patterns to see if you can generate a cloud. So maybe try going up here. Up here there's a spinner which kind of changes the RNG, so you might be able to get it. But yeah, just try different things in order to try and get a cloud. You obviously need the cloud to be generated before this gets close to your PID RNG frame for your Drilbur. If you want to check what your PID RNG frame was, just paste your seed into here, and then put these in again. Oops. Generate, see, yeah, so mine was on 129, so I need the cloud to spawn before frame 129. And so if you can't get it on a particular if you can't seem to get a cloud on a particular tile, you can just try saving on this tile, or there's quite a few different tiles you can try saving on in order to attempt to generate a cloud. And then once you've saved, you can just restart here. You don't have to go in and edit it again because you've already set your seed to the right thing. So restart there, and then try another tile. This doesn't seem to generate a cloud. You might want to try more than I've done there, but I know that that won't work. But I do know that this tile works because I've tested it before. So inject the seed again. So yeah, as you can see, this does generate a cloud, which is before the PID RNG frame that I need to enter it on. So once you've managed to generate a cloud, now you need to enter the cloud on the PID RNG frame of your Drilbur. And to do this, you just need to try different movement. So let's see what I've done here. I've got an Onyx. So in order to see how close you were, what you can do is go back to RNG Reporter and then just put any for all of these. Just get rid of all of this and then generate again. And that generates all the frames. And then you can just go down to where your frame is, and slot 1 is Onyx. So I'm guessing I hit here 122. So I need to advance it a bit more than I did just then in order to get my Drilbur. So I could try going like this. And that gives me a blue shard. Unfortunately, in RNG Reporter, the items are not correct. They don't. You can't get these items in this cave. So whenever you see like a thing that says like ice gem or whatever, that just means like some item. So I could have just hit then one of these frames or something, or one of these frames. I don't know which, unfortunately, because it's not the right items listed here. So you can also try walking. That can give like different advances. So let's see what I've got here. So I've got a Drilbur level 19 female. That looks good, but now you want to open up your Gen 5 Pokemon lure and then use the numbers to advance to White 2 Drilbur. But as you can see here, it's careful. So this is, it looks right, but it's actually careful nature, which is right here. So my one's 129, this is 130. So I need to advance it just one less. And what I will find, and what you might find as well, is just doing movement down here, it's not possible to advance it one less because the RNG skips over that frame. So what I actually have to do to get it to go to that frame is actually go up here and then do advances over here, and then that's going to give me my Drilbur. So basically in this step you've just got to try different movement and see what works, and try, if you find you're getting, you know, one off and you can't seem to get it to get to the right thing, then just try going up to the top left, or not going up to the top left if you already are, and you might be able to get it. It's just a case of trial and error, and you can use the frame, the PidRNG frame here. You can't really see it with this, but you can use that to kind of see roughly where you are, and then you can use RNG Reporter to help with where you've hit as well. So use those two things in combination and you should be able to do it. There's one more thing though, you can't take too many steps, otherwise the step counter will reach 128. Now I've got this save state set up so that the step counter is roughly what it would be in a normal run, which is about 50 something when you get to this point, which means you have like 70 steps or whatever to do your manip in before it will get to 128 and mess it up. There are ways to get your step counter to be at 0 if your Drilbur manip takes more than like 70 steps or whatever. One other thing, by the way, is it doesn't matter if you end up doing a lot of steps and you have to use an extra rappel. That's fine. You can use another rappel if that's necessary to get your desired Drilbur. So a way of increasing the amount of steps you have for Drilbur manip is normally in the run you go in here to get the experience share before the Drilbur manip. And you talk to this Harlequin, and then you normally don't talk to the others until later, but what you can do is go and talk to all of them before you do the Drilbur manip. Normally you would talk to the last one up here when you leave the city, which is obviously a bit faster because you're going that way anyway, but it doesn't waste too much time to just go and do it now. And so if you do all of this before doing the Drilbur manip, that will mean that you have more steps before you get to 128. Your step counter will probably be about 10 to 20, maybe slightly more than 20, so you'll have like 100 steps or whatever to do the manip rather than like 60 you have in doing it the normal way. So if you find your Drilbur manip takes like over 60 steps, I'd recommend in runs talking to all the Harlequins before going there to just make sure that your step counter doesn't go over 128. So the last thing to do is test your manip on console. And there you have it. So well done if you got to the end of this, because it can be quite a long process. And good luck with your speedruns of this game.